Hey guys, Catherine here. I am making another beekeeping video today, and I am inside because I'm going to be showing you the things that beekeepers use in a hive, the kinds of tools that you'll want to have if you want to take up beekeeping. I have got a whole basket of things here. I keep this basket together myself, that way it's easy to pick up and move around. And this is all the things that aren't going to be staying in the hive, like things that aren't part of the hive itself. The first thing that you want to make sure that you have, even if you don't have anything else, is a hive tool. That's one of these. This one's all coated in propolis because I use it. And propolis is sticky and it gets on everything. It's a sort of wax, tree sap glue bees make. But a hive tool has a handle at one end and a angled prying section at the other, so you can jam it between hive boxes or frames and twist or lift to break the seal when the glues have bead things down together. This particular one is my favorite style. It's called a J-hook hive tool. That's because it's got a J-hook at this end. It's also useful for sticking underneath frames and using it to lift them up. But that's not necessarily necessary. Something as simple as a wedged paint scraper would work. In fact, I have one of those in my hive kit too, in case I can't find my hive tool for some reason. But even if you don't have anything else, this is the most important thing. I've seen people beekeep without any of the other things that I keep in my hive, but you gotta have one of these. The next thing that you want to have, well, most people want to have anyway, is a smoker. This is a chamber with a bellows attached and a cone to direct the smoke. The chamber is something that you can light fires inside so that it will create smoke, because it makes bees think that there is a fire, and it disrupts the alarm pheromones that they would otherwise put off and set out to alarm the hive and make it react in an aggressive nature. It makes beekeeping a lot easier to have one of these. But there are people who beekeep without them. They aren't strictly necessary, but they sure are convenient. This is the bellows at the back here. I don't think I mentioned that. So you just squeeze it and it pumps air through up through the chamber that you light the fire inside. If you've got a smoker, the next thing that you'll want to have is fuel for your smoker. I keep my fuel in this little tin. This is tree bark. It burns really well and really slowly and lets off a lot of smoke, which makes it perfect for using in a smoker for beekeeping. I also use things like burlap and pet bedding, like pine shavings. Those work really well inside of smokers too. I actually only keep this tin inside of my hive kit for emergencies. I load up my smoker from my burning bin, which I keep in my garage and doesn't go with me to the hive, but sometimes one load of the smoker is not enough, so you want to have a little bit extra to toss on top when you're working in your hives. Another thing that is really useful, if you want it, is a veil. Like that. I use a veil about 30 to 50% of the time. I don't always use it, and as you can probably tell, mine's not a super expensive or nice one. I don't find them super necessary, but they are very convenient to have. If you don't want to use the veil, but you still want something covering your hair, because it's really creepy feeling having bees climbing in your hair, another thing to have around is a scarf. This is just a silk scarf that I can use to tie over my hair so that I can keep the bees out of it when I'm not working with a veil. Something that is not super necessary but is definitely convenient is latex gloves. If you're allergic to latex nitrile gloves will work too. I just happen to have latex ones. If you are a careful and conscientious beekeeper, you don't necessarily need gloves. If you've got a full hive suit and it comes with gloves, that's awesome. I find that they are too thick and I can't feel the hive, which interrupts how I work with it. Leather gloves would interrupt how I work with the hive, and I can't feel it. So oftentimes, and for a long time, I worked without any gloves at all, but I would end up with propolis coating my hands, just like it coats all my tools that I work in the hive with. So to keep the propolis off my hands, to keep them clean and clear, I like the latex glove. It does also prevent a little bit of the stings. So if you're worried about stings to your hands, I'm not, I wouldn't mind it. But if you are, latex gloves will also do that while not being such a thick barrier and preventing you from feeling what's happening in the hive. Because being able to feel what's going on, being able to feel whether your grip is secure on that frame that you're lifting out of the hive can prevent you from dropping frames and angering the bees and ending your day out in the apiary. Something else that is kind of convenient but is not super necessary is one of these. This is a frame lifter. You have your frames have a top like this, and you can set your frame lifter down on top of it once you've loosened it and close it down around the frames and use it to lift them out. It makes it slightly easier. You can be sure of the grip with it slightly more, and it doesn't take both hands to lift a frame with a frame lifter, so it can be really convenient to have. But again, it's not really necessary. It's not something that you have to have. Something that I do actually recommend keeping in your hive kit is a bit of antihistamine. This is Benadryl, but any antihistamine would do. I'm not particularly allergic to bees, but it's nice to have it on hand in case other people are. So this is mostly full, but I like to have it because I might need it. And it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. I've also got a bit of, this is a stick of Emu Joy. It's emu oil. It's really great topically for bee stings. If you've got some honey, you can smear it on them too. If you make your own balms from beeswax, you can put that on too. It's just something to take a bit of the sting out if you get stung, because in beekeeping, you're gonna get stung. Then we've gotten down to smaller things. I do have a pair of gloves that are rubbered. I've never used these in the hive, but I keep them in my hive kit in case I'm showing someone else my hive and they want to have them and want to use them. I don't like using them, but I like having them on hand just in case. Other things that you may want are things that you can use to cut. So I've got a box knife and I've got scissors. Scissors are great for cutting things like string or rubber bands or things like that that you might use in your hive but don't want in your hive next time you go out there. And a box knife is great for cutting excess comb, along with the hive tool, which is also great for cutting like excess comb that they've built in places that you don't want it to be on the top, or drawing it out further to the sides. That's usually called burr comb. I really like the box knife when they draw frames too wide and they can't draw the next frame over because of it, so I can use the box knife to cut that extra wax away so that it gives them more room to come in from the other side. Something that you're going to probably want, well, definitely want, is something to light your smoker with. It's small, so it usually ends up in the bottom of my kit. This is just a lighter. I think I've also got a pack of matches in there somewhere, but it's nice to have something to light your smoker with and a couple of things to light your smoker with in case one of them doesn't work. Extras and add-ons. Queen cages, or queen clips as these may be, are really convenient if you need to separate the queen out for some reason, or if you need to set her aside for a moment. So I've got a couple of these that I keep in my hive kit. Or I take my hive kit with me if I want to catch a swarm or if I'm going to be doing a cutout, so having these on hand for those situations too is really useful. Here I've got a package of rubber bands. A lot of beekeepers aren't going to want to have these. A lot of beekeepers don't do cutouts and keep using foundation. I don't keep with foundation and I do cutouts, and rubber bands are useful in both of those situations because sometimes you want to cut comb and put it someplace else as you would in a cutout. You'd want to strap it into a frame, or sometimes some comb breaks. It's unfortunate, but it happens, and you want to be able to fix it back up in there. So rubber bands are great for that. I'm actually almost out of these, so I need to get some more. When you wrap it around the frame and it holds the comb in place, it'll hold it in place just long enough for the bees to fix it back on. And then they'll chew through the rubber band. So they will chew through it, it'll drop down to the bottom of the hive, and then they'll drag it out of the hive. So it's not something that's going to stay in there, and it's not something that you can really use again, but rubber bands are fairly cheap, and it's very useful to have. The other things that I've got in here are things that you only use sometimes. So I've got a cap scraper. This is for removing the caps before you extract honey. It's really only good once or twice a year, but it's a useful thing to have. And I've got a bee brush. It's good for, well, exactly like it sounds, brushing the bees off of the frames gently. It's a very soft brush, and it's good for brushing them off so that you can remove the bees from a particular frame without too much hassle or difficulty. The only other thing that I've got in here that I want to show you is my apiary registration. Washington State requests that you register your hives with the state. It's for surveying purposes, and the funds go to agriculture research, particularly in this case bee research. And my particular county requires you register with the state. A lot of counties will just put registering with the state as part of their requirements and regulations for beekeeping in the county. So I keep that in my bee kit with me. That way it's always with me when I'm out working with the bees and accessible even when I'm not. And that's pretty much everything I keep in my bee kit. It's everything that I find really useful, and I wouldn't want to beekeep without it. Let me know if you keep what you use in your bee kit. Oh, I should show you the basket. It's not anything fancy. It's just a white plastic basket that I fit all of that in. I have to be kind of organized about it because if I just toss it in, it just kind of mounds up and overflows. But I would be happy to hear if you keep bees, what you use for beekeeping. And I would be happy to hear if you think there's anything that I left off this list or things that you think are just unnecessary. Go ahead and leave a comment below and let me know. And remember to subscribe, and I was happy to see you today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! Oh,